while wrapping up the day. Unwind with the reminiscence of the day's news from home and abroad with Kaftan TV 7 p.m. News.
Good to have you join us on Kaftan News at 7.
Are living in up to 5%. Are young people we propose the Harmony Symphony.
It's good to have you join us on Kaftan TV News at 7.
We found that the turnaround are not actually sufficient.
National foreign news headlines. Get balanced, accurate facts on the latest news in business, politics, entertainment, sports, and more. Live from our studios.
Many thanks for watching and join us again at 9
Kaftan TV News.
Welcome back, and we sincerely apologize for that. There was a mix-up with the political roundup stories, but right now let's get into the discussion fully. And I have with me in the studio Honorable Mohammed Bello, who is a former member representing the Takia and Sumaila Federal Constituency of Kano State. Joins me live in the studio. Good evening. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here as well, Mercy.
Well done. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure. But let's begin the discussion right away. How do you summarize the economy of in the last 1.5 years? How do you summarize the economy of the economy under the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the last 1.5 years?
Okay. Thank you. Well, it's been quite turbulent, to say the least. There have been a number of major economic reforms that have taken place, such as the removal of the fuel subsidy for one, which the reason behind the removal of the fuel subsidy was said to be that it was consuming a lot of government resources, and that removing the subsidy would free up resources that could be allocated to sectors such as education, such as health, social services, infrastructural development, and such. So with that, however, has come hyperinflation that we've been witnessing. I think the lowest has been like 20%. It's been revolving and hovering above 20%. And that has brought a lot of hardship for Nigerians. And then because of that, the purchasing power of the naira has dwindled significantly. And so these circumstances, even though the reason behind it is to free up resources to be allocated to other sectors of the economy that will foster economic development, it has really caused a lot of economic hardship and backwardness to the current state of the economy. However, the long-term vision of the policy is to free up resources that can be allocated to other sectors of the economy.
Okay.
Then we can go into the tariff hikes in electricity as well. These are also, there were subsidies on electricity that were removed, which have also, which the reason behind that is also to free up resources for the federal government to be able to allocate those to more important or vital sectors of the economy and the nation at large. But this has also made it more difficult for businesses to operate because of the cost of inputs. When you look at already what is happening with the inflation, and then you now come into the operational side, especially those that use heavy machinery and even regular everyday businesses. You can imagine if you are paying 209 naira per kilowatt hour, and then you have to have your lights on, you know, the air conditioning and other aspects of appliances that you have to use in your facilities in order to keep the environment in a good to keep it in conducive for people, for you to operate properly. And so when we look at those things, and then we look at the monetary policies as well, as far as the unification of the naira, I mean the dollar exchange rates, the unification has, so now initially we were running a system where there was a parallel market, and the CBN had its official rate, and there was a black market, and then we came into now in the current administration where there's a unification, which supposedly it was brought so that there will be proper competition, which in economics we understand demand and supply, which demand, the higher the demand, then the higher the price. But if the supply cannot meet the demand, then the price will go up. Now, the conditions that have brought about the demand for the dollar and the supply and the limited supply still exist. And so by unifying it, yes, it will bring, the intention is to show foreign investors that we have confidence in our currency and that there is more transparency. And so this is supposed to invite foreign direct investment. However, the volatility of the naira, because of, I mean, if we look at it, it doesn't take a person that's an expert to know that if you take 10 barrels of crude and you export them and you get 1,000 naira, and then you take 800 of that naira to import refined petrol, that you will not have dollars in your country. And so because of that, even though we've unified it and we've brought this transparency, the volatility of the dollar is still high, and that is also causing a lot of inflationary effects, us being a highly importing economy. So that is also affecting us, the purchasing power of the naira. We can't afford the things that we import. And so all these policies have been put in place, but these are the effects. And also I've also mentioned the intents behind these policies. Okay,
the president removed the fuel subsidy on his inaugurational day. And so one would want to ask, what impact has this made in the economy so far? The removal of the fuel subsidy?
It's caused inflation. The removal of the subsidy has, because as an economy, one of the things that Nigerians were gaining, since we are backwards when it comes to economic development indices, if you compare around the world. So one of the things that was bringing some kind of comfort to Nigerians was the fact that we could afford energy. And so, and because we don't have a proper public transportation system, be it within the city limits or for hauling our goods that we need from maybe Lagos to Kano or to Abuja or wherever, we need to be using trucks, and they use fuel and diesel. So it affects the prices of goods. So it's really caused a lot of inflation in the country, because I think there weren't proper measures that were put in place. So it's not totally a bad thing to remove the subsidy. However, in my own thinking, I would have, what I would have done is I would think that if I have a borehole in my house and I'm allowing those guys that push the carts, the garua that they call them, they come and fetch from my borehole, and they pay 10 naira to fetch. The borehole is in my house, so I can also allow my family to use the borehole without charging them. So what I'm saying in effect is that if it costs $22 to extract a barrel of crude oil in Nigeria, and we have refineries, speaking of, okay, so we have the Dangote refinery, we have the Port Harcourt, Warri, Kaduna, and what I would have done is that, okay, let's extract this petrol at $22 per barrel. That is the cost price for extraction. Refine these products for internal consumption. Okay. You get, so that way we don't have to sell the petrol to Nigeria just because it's being sold around the world in the international market for such and such price. Doesn't mean that we must conform. We need to bring in economic policies that favor us. We cannot be doing cut and paste.
Okay.
So just because this thing worked in England does not mean that it is good for us. So what I would have done is to extract at $22 per barrel, give it to the refineries to refine it, let it at least cost Nigerians maybe 300 naira per liter or whatever, but not these astronomical prices that Nigerians have to pay. I mean, I have to fill my tank up for over 100,000 naira. I'm just on my way here. And previously I was filling my tank up for 15,000 naira. But now it cost me about 110,000. So you see the difference. So now that is a cut in the free money I have. So if I was spending 60 or 120,000 naira a month, maybe let's say I fill up every week. So now I have to spend 400,000 naira more per month. And so that's 340,000 naira that maybe I could have taken my kids to the water park in Asokoro to have fun on one weekend, which I would tell them no now, because that money has to go into my gas tank. Yeah.
Okay. Right, viewers, at this point our phone lines are now open for you to call in to join the conversation or give your contribution. Okay, we heard the president made emphasis on so many sectors during his inauguration and campaign. He talked about the education sector, he talked about healthcare, and he talked about agriculture. So, but it seems like in the last 1.5 years that Mr. President has been in the office, these things don't reflect. Even though, as of last week, he made headlines, the federal government saying that the policies or the reforms that is being taken are beginning to yield fruit, and a lot of Nigerians who want to ask how, because nobody is feeling it. So is there a particular sector you will say Mr. President has done well enough in regarding the sectors he said he was going to put in so much energy, the education, healthcare, agriculture, security? Is there a particular sector you think the president has done so well in?
I don't see anything glaring right now at this moment, because while the funds have been freed up from the removal of the subsidy, from even the MPR. Now, if we look at some of the policies like the MPR, the monetary policy rate from the CBN, it's so high that it discourages. So it was implemented through the CBN in order to curb inflation. But what is happening now is that it's making it hard for businesses. So if I have a contract, typically contracts would be like 30 to 35% of profit. If I have to, now the CBN is giving commercial banks loans at 27.5% or so. So if they're giving them loans at that means the commercial banks, the minimum they would give you a loan for would be probably at maybe 30 or 33%. So automatically if you don't have the liquidity to execute that job and you go to the bank to get a loan, all your profit, so now that stifles economic activity. So I don't see any now. And when it comes to education, the main focus on education, I think where we have issues, I think this policy that they brought about people being able to access loans to go to school is wonderful. I think they did a great job about thinking of it. I don't know how the implementation of it is going on, quite obviously, but the concept itself and the policy I think it's a very welcome idea. But when we come down to the roots, when we go to the primary education, which is what is most important, the governors are to be held accountable for that. It is not under the president's purview to ensure that education the high quality education is delivered and we bring out high quality students from our schools. The primary education is at the local government level. The governors are not giving the local governments their money. So the allocation comes and they hold on to it. And so the local government chairmen are not able to fund education. They are not able to fund primary health care. So in those aspects, so there are things that are the responsibility of the president. So, and mainly especially the economy. I would have thought maybe we would get a think tank of economists. There needs to be more collaboration. In order for the government to show that it is serious, the government, I would advise that Mr. President should take a look again at the team he is constituting. We need to have serious-minded people, that when Nigerians see these individuals, they know that, okay.
You know, Mr. President said in trying to achieve the goal he has for Nigeria, the renewed hope agenda, it's going to be a teamwork, and he feels like the people which he has placed in certain offices, down from ministries down to agencies and MDAs.
Yeah.
So are you saying that Mr. President, employed incompetent set of people to as a team, because he called it a teamwork? The president won't work alone, of course.
Yes.
So the team which is supposed to help Mr. President drive the economy, are you saying they are not doing good enough? Which, of course, the senator from Borno State, Senator Ali Ndume, faced a certain time in the House where he referred to some set of people as kleptocrats or something. So are you in any way saying Mr. President seems let me borrow the word of Senator Ali Ndume, is it kleptocrat, or what did he call them again?
Well, I'm not familiar with that term, but what I would say to you is that when let's say before Messi moved to the US, when he was playing with FC Barcelona, Messi is an outstanding player, right? He's a terrific player, great performances every time. But if you take Messi alone and you put him in a pitch against a full squad, regardless of how good he is, he won't be able to deliver alone. The likelihood of him winning that match alone for FC Barcelona is the odds are against him. So what I am saying is that when you go to the pitch, even when there was FC Barcelona, apart from the 11 men that will be on the pitch to support him, you have technical coaches, you have the head coach, you have their trainers, the people that are in charge of their health, you have the fans. It is a collaborative effort. So there, even if you've made appointments, there needs to be more collaboration in terms of creating think tanks. These think tanks, there are many Nigerians that are patriotic, that just want the best for this country, that if you put them, you don't even need to give them any money. You don't need to pay them. They will come and give their ideas, bounce ideas. Okay, these are the issues. These are the issues that we are facing in our country. How do we resolve this issue? Let's bounce ideas, create think tanks. That's what I'm saying. So there should be more collaboration, there should be more cohesion, there should be more inclusion in governance and in bringing up and creating policies, and even in the implementation and oversight of these policies, is what I'm saying.
All right. Then I want to ask, do you think the 10th Assembly, because I'm asking because you were a member of the House in the 9th Assembly, and we know that the policies or the renewed hope agenda, the policies which Mr. President has taken, has brought untold hardship on Nigerians. But do you think the 10th Assembly has played enough role in trying to communicate with the executive of what the situation is really is in Nigeria? Do you think the 10th Assembly are playing good or enough role in trying to help Mr. President, balance the economy?
I would like to think so, because...
You would like to think so, or you know so?
I would like to think so, because the reason why I say this is that we run... The system of government we run has there are checks and balances. We have the executive, we have the legislative, we have the judiciary. All these arms of government are meant to operate independently, and they are there to check each other. So if the National Assembly would have seen anything that they felt was detrimental to the operations of the country, or to the growth of the economy, or to the policies of Mr. President, then I would believe that the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas and Godswill Akpabio, that they would step up and do what they are supposed to do.
Yeah, I know, but so far, do you think they've been able to, or do you think that they've been able to help Mr. President drive the economy? Have you seen them played a vital role in trying to, achieve the economic system which Mr. President is targeting? Have they played any vital role?
If they have, I haven't seen it visibly yet, because like we all know, we are all Nigerians. We are all going through the same thing. It's a lot of inflation, purchasing power. We're having liquidity issues. We have a very monocratic economy where we are dependent on the oil. We don't even really exploit the gas as much as we should. We are the third largest producer of sesame seed in the world. But when you go into all these sectors, there are so many barriers. So I think the government should really focus on creating an environment that eases business. Even the National Assembly, there should be bills and laws and motions that should be moved to ease business for Nigerians. We need to have more exports. So I would say I haven't seen any bills or any laws that have been passed to protect Nigerians, because, for instance, if you go to Kano or you go to Bauchi or you go to Plateau, and I'm not being biased to anyone, right? We're all humans on this planet, right? And we have the freedom to move around where we want to go to. But I believe that whatever you do, you need to also secure yourself first, secure your home first, right? And so what is happening now is we're the third largest producer of sesame seeds in the world. But then you have, so the consumers, the ones who people who consume, we don't consume it that much. The Indians, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Malays, the Saudis, the ones from the Emiratis, they are the ones that consume this product. But what is happening is that they come here themselves and buy these products at low prices from the farmers directly, and they just export it themselves. So what happens here is that the foreign exchange Nigeria could have earned from those exports, these guys have packed it and gone. They've taken the product, they've taken the foreign exchange, they've taken the employment. We don't process. So if I would advise that Mr. President should focus even in the agriculture, where we have a lot of subsistence farming going on. I think Nigeria should be beyond that right now. But even at the subsistence level that we're farming, we still produce enough to even be the third largest producer in the world. We need to focus our economic policies that are geared towards agriculture on empowering our people to be able to process these agricultural products that we grow. And by doing that, we improve the economy, we create employment, we bring down inflation, we bring in more foreign exchange into the country. I know there are other policies that the president has implemented to encourage people in the diaspora to bring in money into the country, or the open market operations that they are focusing on, selling treasuries to reduce liquidity in the economy. But that reduction of liquidity, the way our economy is not mature enough for us to have that level of tightening on the liquidity of our country. So I think there needs to be a review of the monetary policies that are being implemented, not necessarily scrapping them, but just reducing the grip, so that, because those at the bottom are the ones that are really feeling it. I have to deal with people like this every day, so I know what they have to go through and what they are going through right now, and it's not beautiful at all.
Okay, so let's talk about the recent development of the 2025 budget, national budget, which the government has pegged at 47.9 trillion naira. What do you make out of this budget?
Mercy, there's really nothing to make out of it, because I will tell you two things. So the first one is that I believe that already at the rate that we are going as a country, well, I remember when I was in primary 2, one of the first proverbs, or the adage that I first learned I was in Legico in Lagos, was that cut your coat according to your size.
Okay.
Right? Even when I didn't understand what they were saying that time, or cut your cloth, whatever.
I think this time around it's been changed to cut your coat according to your material.
So now the issue here is that while 47 trillion sounds grand, out of the 47 trillion, you know that there's a 13 trillion naira debt
yes,
on that,
of course, which brings it up above okay, yeah, there is
yeah, so part of it is going to be 13 trillion.
Yes.
So there's a deficit, right? There's a deficit. So I think with us trying to fix our economy and balance out our finances, that type of deficit is too high. And why not we budget minus 13 trillion and then allocate those resources accordingly? Secondly, I will tell you that since maybe 1982, we haven't had any growth, really, any significant growth in
our GDP.
Yeah, and even in the budget, in the governmental spending. The only reason why it's sounding 47 trillion naira is because of the inflation and the devaluation of the naira, which the CBN played a role in. So the naira has been devalued. And so if you go back to 1982 or 1983 and you check how much our budget was then versus the dollar rate, and then you do the same conversion of what the budget is today with the budget with the dollar rate, then you will now realize that the government hasn't had any growth in income. Like, we've been hovering around that 50-something billion naira every year for the past 40 years or 40 whatever years that have passed. So it is nothing to stand up and clap for. We haven't grown. We haven't grown. We are still spending the same amount of money. We are still sharing the same amount of money. It's just multiplied by inflation. Okay. But the purchasing power is not there. What can be done has not been increased. Do you get? So my advice would be, if it would be taken, is that we cut spending. Yeah, we need to cut spending. We need to budget. Even if we don't cut spending in government, maybe there are things that have to go a certain way. But I think one of the first steps is that we need to reduce our government debt.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's quickly hear from this caller before we move on. Hello, good evening.
Hello?
If you can hear me, good evening.
Good evening.
We're glad to have you join us on the show. Your name and where you're calling us from. Oh, sorry, you might have to call us back. But then, looking at this for this 49.7 trillion naira budget, which is over 20 trillion addition compared to that of 2024, and which gives us about a 66.4 increase. Does this budget look realistic? I understand the fact that you talked about the valuation of naira and the inflation rate, but looking at the margin, trading over 20 trillion naira and at a 66.4 increase. Yeah. Does it look realistic?
No, it is realistic, because while there are other aspects we've not talked about the tax reforms. So the president has embarked on a lot of tax reforms, especially with the digital and tech companies. So there's a lot of income that's going to be generated from those sectors by the federal government. There's been a lot of tightening of leakages from the customs. So we are generating a lot of income through taxes. The government will be able to fund a large part of the budget. I think we've started to hit 1.8 trillion. We haven't been hitting our OPEC quota.
1.8 trillion.
Yeah, but now we I think from yesterday was when it was announced. Yeah, we've started hitting our OPEC quota target of 1.8 million barrels per day.
But there was no clarification on that, because as at October, the OPEC recorded as 1.4. So yeah, so from October to now, NNPCL has come out to say that they've recorded 1.8 without any explanation on or how they got there, and still telling us that before the end of the year they're likely to hit 2 million barrels per day without any clarification. So it kind of look complicated, don't you think?
I mean, what kind of clarification do you seek? Is it that are you speaking of the fact that Nigeria is the only oil producing country in the world that does not have a meter to count how many barrels or how many liters of crude oil it extracts.
When you look at the margin as at ending of October, it's read 1.4 and up 1.4 and 1.8.
They told us how they did it.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, what was stopping us from meeting those targets? Mostly it was insecurity, right?
So do you think we've properly addressed insecurity?
In that area? It would seem so.
It would seem so.
It would seem so. If the NNPC is saying that they've hit that target. So that means whatever obstacle that was preventing them, since it's not like, so it's a different case if in the past Nigeria has never been able to meet up to its targets, right? So in the past we've been meeting up our targets, then we got to a junction where, we're not meeting up our targets. So it's not a surprise that, now we've passed whatever was stopping us from meeting up our targets, and now we're meeting up our targets. Do you get? So it's a totally different ball game if we were never meeting our targets. So I don't think there's anything mysterious about it, in my opinion. But it would also be nice, because what you raise now, a lot of Nigerians out there might be thinking the same.
Exactly.
And so there should be more transparency.
Exactly.
This is what we've done.
Yes.
This is the reason why we were able to increase and get more 400,000.
Exactly.
Maybe OML 18 before there was this issue there. But now we've resolved it. We have these marginal oil blocks that are now we need to know. I understand what you mean. So like some people might want to, so that there's transparency.
Exactly. There can be transparency in the government and of course in the oil sector, because if you look at what has been going on in the oil sector in the last 3 months, it's kind of one would sit back and wonder what is really going on. There seems to be a cabal kind of a cabal kind of group because NNPC wakes up and tell us, NNPC will be telling us one thing, while the Dangote refinery is telling us another thing. Independent marketers are telling us quite different things. So it's kind of look complicated. But then recently the National Bureau of Statistics and the Debt Service of Nigeria revealed that Nigeria debt service rose to 132 trillion naira compared to what it was as about 6 to 5 years ago. Now looking at we know that of course the valuation and inflation resulted to this, but looking at the growth of the rates at which we keep incurring debt, do you see are we making any progress as a growing country economy?
No, absolutely. I think we need to cut back on, because I know that the government is also proposing, the federal government is proposing, rather President TINUBU is proposing, and the federal government proposing that for another debt of $2.2 billion that they would want to collect again. And while it is normal for governments to borrow, right, but we need to put the money into places where we see the value for each dollar that is invested, and things that can generate money for us to pay back that debt. Because at the end of the day, when we generate all these incomes, we start having this fanfare, like, okay, we are meeting our OPEC quota target now, we are collecting all this tax revenue now, we've removed subsidy now, we have these new tax regimes now, we have foreign direct investment, but then a lot of that money ends up going to service debt. And so the impact of all that money being freed up won't really be felt by the ordinary Nigerian because of that, because now we've acquired and accumulated so much debt, which started from the time of President Muhammadu Buhari, where they took our debt to places that we've never been before. And then now that has now spiraled and continued. If we go back to when President Olusegun Obasanjo was president, he actually was able to clear up our debt and put our foreign reserves in a very good position, and it seemed like we were on a good trajectory at the time. So I think if we can add to all these economic reforms that are either being proposed or currently being implemented, and review them, and behind all these policies and reforms, the crux should be that Nigeria needs to be financially sound and independent. We need to tread the path where we are able to determine our own policies, not we have the Bretton Woods institutions dictating or suggesting or even holding us to ransom, some may say, to implement economic policies that aren't beneficial to Nigerians.
Okay, yeah, I think I heard you talked about cutting expenditure to be able to accommodate a growing economy. Let's take it back a bit to the National Assembly. So we are now looking at trying to balance the economy, and which you mentioned and suggested that the cutting expenditure would go a long way, and of course will do a lot. What is but looking at what goes to the National Assembly, the SUVs and huge allowances that goes to the National Assembly, do you think that too has to be really looked into or cut, maybe cut down a bit? Do you think that there is need for that to happen?
No, the National Assembly shouldn't be treated like a stepchild.
What do you mean, like a stepchild?
Okay, so now these are three separate arms of government. So the executive government, they get all these things provided and nobody says anything. The judiciary get the same thing. But then the National Assembly becomes the scapegoat.
It's not about the National Assembly. I think when it comes to governance and government, it's about the people who voted into the office. So,
Right.
but then one would imagine, or one would think, year in, year out, there is a new assembly, and these people are giving SUVs. Now, when you look at the exorbitant amount of the SUV at which the SUVs are purchased, you would wonder: are these really people who take the priority of people who voted them into office serious?
There are certain things now. With when we talk about these vehicles, when we come into specifics like this,
but the National Assembly are being given SUVs, so isn't it?
Well, during my time, we weren't given SUVs. We had regular cars, and the thing is, like, what I know is that I actually had to pay for that vehicle.
So how do you pay? Because
they make deductions.
Deductions.
Yeah, they made deductions. They were taking that money out of my salary. I wouldn't have even taken the vehicle. It was after I had finished, and when it was time for me to get my gratuity or whatever they call it, and they was, oh, you took this car and you did this and you did that, and then all the money was just like almost pretty much removed. Do you get? So that is something that even needs to. I wouldn't want to be the one to come and start speaking on certain issues,
okay,
especially without being there.
You're not. Yes, we know
Right
that
now.
you're not part of the 10th Assembly. But do you think the expenses or the expenditure of the National Assembly needs to be, at least for the sake of the economy?
No, I am.
Do you
telling
think it needs to be,
No.
cut down
No,
to an
no.
extent, or
No, it doesn't need to be cut down because I have been there, and I speak to.
you think it's a normal thing for? It's a normal thing that the lawmakers are giving SUVs, or even why the economy is, or even why the economy.
No, it
is-
doesn't have to be SUVs to be
It's
honest.
bleeding, according to.
No, they don't have to. But what I'm trying to tell you is, like, those SUVs are even being charged for. Do you get? Like, they're being charged for. So it's almost like, you see, there's somebody's given a contract to do this. They've supplied the vehicles, but then the money is still being removed. I had to pay for my vehicle. I had to pay for that vehicle. It was deducted from my money. And I believe it's the same thing that's going on now.
So how about the allowances? Do you think the allowances are quite exorbitant?
Yeah, I think maybe it depends. The way this country works. So I can tell you, like, one of the hardest times I've had in my life was when I was in national. Like, I'm so happy to be free now.
You're happy not to be a lawmaker.
I am so. This is like one of the.
But you went into the office to serve your people. So what
that's
made you
what-
change
that's
your
why I
mind
went
about serving your
That's
people?
why I went there. I haven't changed. I still serve my people. I just serve them in my own capacity now, as who I am, as a regular Nigerian. Because the pressures are a lot. Everybody, because I don't know, this image has been created.
Are you saying that you wouldn't contest for any political office again?
I am not planning to contest for any political office. I am enjoying my life.
What if you are given at the platter of gold? Would you take the offer?
Of course I will take it. Yeah, because
so why do you want to take it if you feel you just said that the
because an opportunity to serve people, because they're now I'm speaking from my own selfish side, that okay, I have this freedom that I'm enjoying now, but then I also have this natural instinct and strong desire to serve people. And that is why when I was in the House, I gave my all, and I made sure that I delivered to my constituency as much as I could.
Okay, now talk to me about when members of the APC or some set of supporters of APC would say, don't blame President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the economy. What of course, then the president told us during the campaign that he campaigned for the job, means he is fully ready for the job. But then what we are seeing today, with the result we've seen today, and with the condition of the economy, it seems to be the opposite. So what did you make out of all of that? Don't blame President Tinubu for the bad economy, and yet President Tinubu then coming out to tell us he will fix the country, and where we are today, it doesn't look anything like fixed.
Yeah, so a lot of the people that say don't blame President Tinubu, I think the reason why they say that is they are going back to the damage that President Muhammadu Buhari initiated during his tenure, because of his hands-off approach to governance. And that set the tone for the direction, because President Muhammadu Buhari had a genuine opportunity to set the course of this country on the right trajectory, that whoever would have come after him, if they messed up, then you'll be like, oh, this person has messed up what Buhari started. So
what happened? What changed? You said Buhari, the former president, President Muhammad Buhari, had a mind to set the country right. But then you just say that you just say the way he managed the country and the economy. So what changed if he had it in mind to, make the country conducive, at least for the people of Nigeria?
I mean, you never know, because I mean, politics is a game, right? So we have different images that we present to people. Maybe you have this image of me that you are seeing here, but I'm not only this person. I could be something else to somebody else. I could be another person. So maybe the intent that was shown was not what was inside, or maybe it was overwhelming for him, or along the line something changed and the direction also changed. But the reason why I brought President Buhari into this is the fact that I'm saying those people that are defending President Tinubu, this is where their argument is coming from. However,
so is it justifiable?
However, because I mean, if someone came in here before I got into the studio and this whole place was like scattered, right? Before I got here and I came in here, when you weren't here, and I met this whole place scattered. When I got in, I can be like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to have a show here, and I don't want this place looking like this. And even before you get here, I can just start saying I could take the initiative. Or, not me, when you arrive and see the place is scattered and I'm already here, let's say me, I'm Nigerians, and you are President TINUBU, and so you get in here and you see the place is scattered, you won't be saying, oh, let me call Pius or whoever to come and fix this place. Or maybe you can just start saying, oh, let me just start straightening this place up before so by the time you call your help to come in, to say when they get here to come and arrange the studio, they will come and say, oh, we even came and met Mercy. She had already put the tripod up. She had just stood 4 tripods up, and she had fixed up the lights, and she had wiped the table down. And so because of that, what they came in and saw, they were like, oh, okay, even though the place hasn't been set up fully, what we have seen Mercy doing is showing us that, okay, she's trying to get the studio in order. As opposed to if I was in here and then you came in And then instead of you to start fixing up stuff, and then you just start pouring whitewash on the wall and just doing random stuff. You know, and then they came in and met you, they wouldn't have that impression. I wouldn't have that impression of you either. So, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that maybe you didn't want to get the studio fixed as well. Maybe you can't do heavy lifting, and you are waiting for your staff to come and fix it. So for me judging you and saying, oh, I've been sitting here and she came and she saw this place scattered and she didn't fix it, and then I start judging you for that without thinking, oh, maybe she can't do heavy lifting. That would also be wrong of me, right? So I think in everything we do, we have to try to balance out, in as much as the pain is real, the bite is real, we are feeling it. I think ultimately it is always good to give a person the benefit of doubt. This man has been in office for a year and a half or so. Let's see what by the third year will bring.
All right. Okay, then I would want to ask before we wrap it up, in 60 seconds, tell us, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has told Nigerians to be patient with him, give him time, which he describes as baby pain, you know, trying to stabilize the economy. Baby pain, yeah. You haven't heard that, but before I think I have to.
Hey, what is baby pain?
Good evening, in the words of Mr. President. Good evening. We lost that caller. So which he described as baby pain.
Right.
Okay, but the
what
question now,
pain?
You should ask the president. Maybe he has a better answer, of course, because that's his description.
I need to come to the villa to get an explanation on that.
So, but the question is, how much more time do we give Mr. President, and do you see light at the end of the tunnel with this administration?
I would like to see things being done differently, and I'm saying this as a patriot with all sincerity, not as anyone that is fighting anybody. I'm not into politics or looking for any appointment or office or anything. I am sincerely saying that the way it is looking, it's not looking hopeful, it's not looking good. That then some things need to be done that will give Nigerians hope.
Okay.
I will not sit here and sugarcoat things. Things are looking bleak.
They're not looking hopeful.
It's despair. It's despair. And because for you to have hope, there have to be things that give you hope.
Hope, yes.
And that is why there is hope and hopelessness. So for me, to be honest, I haven't seen anything that is hopeful. Because all the policies, or rather not all the policies, all the blocks that have been the cause of all these economic hardships that we are facing, and the inflation and the lack of foreign exchange that we have, and every other thing, and unemployment, all those things still exist. We need to look inwards. We need to stop looking outwards for our problems. We need to look inwards to our problems. And if Mr. President, I'm speaking to him as a Nigerian, that he needs to get think tanks, patriots that truly love this country from different sectors, to sit down and really identify the issues of Nigeria and proffer solutions that are sustainable, that will bring economic development to our country.
All right, thank you so much, Honorable Mohammed Bello, for being with me in the studio this evening. It's been wonderful having you around. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it, and this is where we call it a wrap on today's show. Thank you so much for sticking around with us, and I hope you had a swell time. Thank you very much. Keep watching Kaftan Television. I am Messi Emelite. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Bye-bye, and see you some other time.